Hello, folks, and welcome to Got Your Back post-game live stream edition. Getting set to join Jason Strudwick in just a moment. Oilers pick up an important couple of points on the road in Detroit. And man, their point streak is just rolling right now. Wasn't perfect. A little bumpy out of the break, wasn't it? But hey, they figured out a way to get it done. And in the end, that's what matters. Especially coming out of a break when you're not going to be as smooth as you might like. Got Your Back is always brought to you by Mr. Dirk. It's your one-stop shop for all your clothing needs. If you're a businessman looking to spruce things up, if you got a big meeting or just want to show that you're on your game around the office, go see Sterling, Dan, that great crew down at Mr. Dirk. They got a great selection of dress clothes for you. Suits, ties, shirts, pants, whatever you need. I've been buying clothing from them for work for, a pile of years, and just thrilled with the product that you can get down there at Mr. Dirk. Lots of casual wear as well. If you're looking for jeans, shirts, that kind of thing, they got lots of that in stock as well. So just off 102nd and White Ave. It's a great spot for all of your clothing needs. That's Mr. Dirk, title sponsor here on Got Your Back. All right, let's check in with the man, Jason Strudwick. How you doing, Struddy?
Good. How you making out tonight?
I'm okay. I'm at the helm tonight, so just trying to make sure everything works and make sure everything sounds okay. I see we're up on YouTube. We're live streaming the podcast tonight, so going to have a little bit of interaction with the listeners and the viewers. Send us your thoughts on the game and whatever Struds and I end up discussing here. So, yeah, going okay, man. How about you? You had a busy night tonight.
Yeah, just busy, normal kids' activities, right? Anyone who's got some young kids and some activities knows they're driving around, coaching, dragging equipment around. It's kind of what we do.
Yeah, 100% busy times. How's your week looking? Y'all, you jammed up with a bunch of ice times and such? I know the Oilers go out of town. It gets lighter for me, but I feel like it's busier for you.
Yeah, I've got a couple things helping out the Oilers. I said an event tomorrow for at the rink, so that's a full day one. And then
great.
My daughter has some stuff going on Friday. I'm going to be there at her school, so yeah, it's and then my normal stuff. So it's been a busy. It's a good thing to be busy. To be wanted is nice. So I got another couple weeks of this, and it calms down a bit.
Now, will you watch, I guess you can't because you're on with me right now, but LeBron chasing the record and all that? Are you the basketball guy that'll pay keen attention to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a foregone conclusion, right? Like, it's not, he was going to do it. So I think that's something I could watch in the highlight reel and be satisfied.
Yeah.
It's an amazing accomplishment. I mean, I remember I watched him play his rookie year when I was in Chicago, and he just bullied everybody on it. It was crazy. And he's been doing it ever since. And bullying is a compliment, right? He is an incredible athlete. One of the greatest of all time, I think, in that league, obviously.
Okay, let's get to the breakdown of tonight's game because we weren't sure what to expect from the Oilers coming off of this break. You never really know, but everybody's kind of facing that out of All-Star. So let's get to the breakdown brought to you by DLR Vinyl Products. They supply some of the nicest maintenance-free decking and fencing products out there. If you've always had a wood fence in your backyard and it's getting a little dicey, you know that when the snow melts, what lies beneath is not going to be great, or if the fence is looking rough, think about some maintenance-free product. You don't have to stain, you don't have to sand, you don't have to paint. It goes in once, and then it's in great shape for life. Long-term fix for your decking and your fencing needs. They have locations in Calgary and at Edmonton. It's DLR Vinyl Products. Okay, Struds, coming out of breaks, how did you used to feel? Did it take a little bit to find your legs? Were you a guy that knew the right way to start? Like, what did you sense from the Oilers coming out of the break? Not a bad first 5 minutes.
No, it was good. They came out well, and you're going to have – I actually found the All-Star guys were a little bit more tired, a little more fatigued. They didn't get the break, right? And even though they're technically still playing, you're really not playing. Like, just call that All-Star game what it is. Those guys barely sweat, so they're really not moving around too quickly. So I always thought they were a little sluggish. But for me, like a guy like myself or a guy like Fogle, you could come out of the break and really make some headwind because maybe not everyone was ready, and you wanted to be, make sure you're ready to go. Have a couple hard practices and hit the ground running. And I thought that's what happened. I thought tonight it was kind of the unsung heroes for the Oilers that really stood up and did what needed to be done. But you need that. You need that because, like I said, your all-star guys, they're not really getting a break. It never ends for them.
Interesting, Struddy, in that. So Jay Woodcroft pointed out to the media that McDavid and Draisaitl wanted to get back in time for those practices. Now, I might be wrong here, but I believe in previous years when they have gone to All-Star, and then, there's that day or so before games get started again, they generally give those players a day off. They generally give those guys a break. Yeah. They didn't. And Woodcroft made it clear it was McDavid and Draisaitl wanting to get back, wanting to get to practice, and they had back-to-back days of actually pretty hard practices. So the idea was good. Get back, and it was a work day. It was written on the board. Remember, we talked about it. And then the next day was a pretty tough practice day as well. All well and good in principle. I thought they looked sluggish and a little bit tired and kind of off their game tonight. And so love the idea, but they looked like they could have used a bit of rest. Am I wrong?
Yeah, and the traveling, it's a bit of the traveling, right?
Think about that. Florida all the way back and then over, whoa.
Yeah. And I'm guessing they had a pretty good time prior to the All-Star break.
Sure.
Which they should. They should. I'm not judging. Trust me. I had my fair share of good times. But yeah, they looked like they were just, still trying to get out of that break. And that's what happens when your All-Star guys are out there. But, like I said, the undercover guys got it done. Jack Campbell, huge tonight. Couple huge breakaway saves. Now, they weren't exactly pure breakaways. They're under pressure breakaways, but still, he makes the saves, had a couple other nice saves, nice save percentage tonight. He had a really big game, and they needed him tonight, and they got him. That McLeod skating well, Fogle, a couple nice goals, penalty kill up big. So, those aren't, especially penalty kill, but those guys haven't, in the first half, none of those players, Fogle, McLeod, Campbell, and the penalty kill, we would never been saying, oh man, that group of people really got it done tonight. Yeah. That group was unreal. They were nowhere to be found. And now you could really, quite frankly, put them up there for the reason they won this game.
Let's get to the Weiss Johnson soundbox here. A little bit of post-game reaction from the team. Jay Woodcroft will start with, just kind of sounding very similar to you, Struds, in his debrief of what went well for his club tonight and the way the night went. Here's Jay Woodcroft.
We found contributions offensively from some unusual suspects. I thought our penalty kill was outstanding today. And our power play, though mostly ineffective at the start, found a way to get a huge goal for us to kind of seal the...
Yeah, to kind of seal the deal there. And really, that was the case. There are many nights where that power play is unreal. Just unreal. And then there's nights like tonight where it's not. And generally I find, Struds, it's either brutal or it's really good. And for most of the game tonight, that power play was brutal. I thought it sapped energy from the group. I thought the shifts were too long. I thought the bad habits were creeping in. The frustration was kind of there. But those guys are so good when they needed them most in the end. They strike. So was it a good night or a bad night?
It was a bad night, but they had timely goals. And I'll give Jack Michaels a lot of credit. He said, it's not only that they've scored a lot, it's the time of goals they scored.
Yeah,
I think it was
he
just
did call
before
that.
that.
Yep.
I think it was just before that one. I might be wrong, but I think it was just before that goal scored. And there's just timing. Understand the timing. And I said this earlier about McDavid. McDavid just always seems to score the goal at the right time, right? And finding God, my team needs one. And he gets it. And it's just that it might be the dagger in the heart of their team, or it's one that gets you back in the game or gives you some separation. And the power play, you're right. It was not ideal tonight. But when they needed it, boom. Goal. And pretty much it, right? That's pretty much the game. So, but the power play has been counted on so much this year and so heavily, especially early in the year. It's nice to put that on the side and say, yeah, they got us a big goal, but all these other things lined up and worked well for us tonight that we did not count on in the first half of the year.
I actually wondered if after that one really crappy power play where didn't they get scored on the tail end of it, after the power play expired? I thought that happened, or shortly after anyways. I thought maybe Woodcroft would do that whole start the second unit thing. I thought maybe. I thought they probably called for it tonight. And if it weren't the first game out of a break, I think they would have fired a rocket across the bow of the big guns, right? Like, we'll start the other guys. They were that bad on that power play early on, but they got it together when it mattered, and they end up scoring. We'll go to the Weiss Johnson mentions here. This from Greg D, bunch of numbers. PK was really looking for a shorty all night. Glad to see that was rewarded. So we talk about the power play and their struggles. A penalty kill came through in a big way for them. And Struds, I noticed a bunch of different guys contributing on that penalty kill.
All over the place. I mean, look at Vinny Darnell, almost 3 minutes on the penalty kill.
Yeah.
I think he was the second or third guy on the back end for killing penalties. And he only played 11 minutes. So you look at it, 25% of his ice time was shorthanded related. And he seemed very comfortable in there. So, yeah, everyone was kind of getting in there. And I really hesitate to think that the goal of the penalty kill is to score goals. I think that it should be considered a bonus, like a byproduct, right?
Yeah.
It's just not, to me, that's not the goal. The goal is to kill the penalty. And if you score something, great, but it shouldn't be the other way around. We got to go score in this penalty kill. That is the wrong attitude. You want to get it done. And because, as you mentioned with the Oilers power play, I believe when you kill like the Oilers are killing right now, it also takes energy out of those other top team players, top guys.
We're going to talk about Warren Fogle specifically in our takeaways segment because he's an interesting player, and he was an interesting player over the last couple of days at practice and an interesting player in this game tonight. So we are going to get to Warren Fogle in just a couple of minutes more. Weiss Johnson mentions Heavy Hockey Network, says hello to you boys. Hello, Heavy Hockey Network. Thanks for tuning in. Some stranger says power play struggled because McDry were both sluggish. Yeah, we definitely, I think, both agree with that. They didn't have their stuff. Draisaitl in particular. Like, this was a rough night for Leon Draisaitl. We don't see a ton of these nights from him. And coming out of the All-Star break, he'll get a pass on it. But he's either like way up here or way down here. There's not a lot of middle ground for Leon Draisaitl, is there, Struddy?
No. You know what? He's an amazing player. And I think that, we got to give the guy a pass every now and then, right? I know everyone wants everyone to bring their A game all the time, but let's just look at what his last, 8 days has been. I think he went on a vacation, probably had a pretty good time when he was there, then flew up to Florida. Same thing, a lot of different things going on. And
probably had a pretty good time, yeah.
Probably had a pretty good time. Then he fly all the way from Florida after the game on Saturday, get to Edmonton, play, practice, get some sleep, practice, fly back to Detroit, the same time zone you started with in Florida, and then you play a game tonight. So he wasn't set up for success. But listen, it's Leon Draisaitl. There are times when the other guys on your team have to lift him up. They like lift him up, lift up McDavid. Just like some nights the team has to pull their goalie out of the dumpster, right? Or some nights the penalty kill has to pull the power play out of the dumpster, or vice versa. Like it's not always like everyone's going every night. Now, you'd like it to happen, and there are nights it has, but that just isn't going to happen every night. And tonight was not the night.
What did you think of all the hugging? Yeah. The hugging and stuff going on out there tonight. Like, I want to say it was a rough and tumble, scrappy game. It wasn't at all. Like, there were some decent hits that were thrown, right, but it was just a bunch of, like, face washing and hugging after each whistle.
Yeah, and odd because these teams haven't played each other yet. And so I don't know where does this animosity come from? You look at Kulak and Fabry. I mean, where's that coming from? What like, do they have a history? I don't know if anyone else knows, but like, it was just kind of random, right? And it just, even you think of the Calgary Rangers game. I mean, that team, those two coming out of a break, no real history of any playoff battles or,
Trouba has a way of bringing that out in a team, hey?
Man, I love that way that guy plays. Oh my God, do I love him. But anyways, it's just a weird, it's weird. So I don't know if guys are maybe a little crabby coming out of their break, or I don't know what it, or the coaches are all over them, but I like it. I like seeing some intensity in games. I honestly thought tonight was going to be like we almost got to it, but like a 6-4 game, kind of poorly played. And it wasn't a great game, but at the end of the day, the Oilers found a way to get to 2 points, and some big parts of their team found a way to contribute.
Going to go back to the Weiss Johnson soundbox here. I've forgotten what's where, so give me a sec here.
Yeah, I saw Nursey come down.
That's not it.
Yeah, I think you just try to stay positive.
That's not it.
Didn't play last game, and
That's not it.
Hockey expects to make those.
I was going to go to Evander Kane, but I don't have it here. He was talking about the scrumming it up, and he kind of said, we got guys that can handle ourselves, and they didn't really want much to do with us in that way. Like, Detroit isn't really built that way. So you could tell when it really got down to it, whether it was Costin staring down, I can't remember who it was, and like, listen, do you want to do this all night or do you want to go? Right? Kane, I think, was willing to. Darnell was in there all night long. So the Oilers actually bring a little bit of beef to the alley when they need to.
Well, they were without Costin and I guess Kane and Darnell to start the year, right?
Yeah.
And then now these three guys are in there, and Costin has no problem. He's a mauler. Darnell was grabbing two guys over by the bench, tossing them both around. Yeah. And it's being a bully. Like, those guys, they need to be bullies. That is what you're out there. You bully the other team, make them uncomfortable. And then you got Kane, who's the ultimate bully. Just ask Nazem Kadri in the playoffs last year. And he's in there stirring up, and he brings guys into that battle. He is elite at that, about bringing guys in his own team into battle.
Let's do some honorable mentions here tonight. I'll list off a couple of names and you can expand a little bit. Listen, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins with a goal and an assist continues to contribute on that power play. Philip Broberg picks up a couple of assists. Ryan McLeod, 6 goals in his last 10 games. He was 7-2 in the faceoff circle tonight. Again, I'll raise that thought I've had over the last few days. Do they need to go get a third-line center, or is Ryan McLeod kind of going like, I might be able to do that? I know he wasn't great tonight, but you look at these stats and you go, well, that's kind of what third-line centers are kind of there to do, win draws and chip in a little bit. So Darnell we've talked about. Who did you like? And we'll deal with Fogle in the next segment, but who'd you like of the other contributors?
I think all those guys you named off, I'm going to pick off Broberg, though.
Okay.
Broberg, he's starting to become what I envisioned of him, which is a guy that carries the puck, carries it out of trouble. And I'll case in point the goal, McLeod's goal. McLeod's? Yeah, McLeod's. He gets the puck kind of under pressure, skates it down wide, right? His head is up the whole way, looks back, sees McLeod, and zips a really hard pass against the grain behind him. And McLeod does what he does. And I don't think that we're giving enough credit to Broberg. That was an unbelievable play. Yeah. Unbelievable, because he used his feet, got the line, got in there and do that. And the Oilers don't have a lot of D-men that can do that. They can both carry it with that speed and make that play. Bouchard's a really good passer. I don't think he skates like that. Kulak can skate. I don't think he has that ability to make that play. And,
that's a good point, man. That's a good point. He has both of those when he's playing well, as opposed to other guys that maybe only have one of those assets.
And so when he's moving, he is understanding how he can move his feet and get going and skating. The challenge, though, to go back to your original question about do they need to add another guy, center, I would say the same are Broberg and McLeod. I'm not sure they're going to be playoff ready for this year's playoffs. I know.
And they want to win this year.
Yeah.
So can you rely on him? Like, remember, McLeod played in the playoffs last year, right? He was there.
He did. And
won't be his first dance.
It is not. But I mean, I'm not sure that he, do you want him staring down Kopitar the last minute of a 7-game?
Well, something's gone wrong if he's out there in the last minute against Kopitar.
Generally speaking, a third-line center, traditionally, you're like, this guy
not
can
when
really
you have
do it.
McDavid and Draisaitl. You don't need him to be that guy.
100%. I'm not sure if he's there. But also, just this idea, I didn't expect that we'd be talking that McLeod would have more goals combined than Yamamoto and Puljujarvi. That's a real surprise. And I'm not doing that to kick Puljujarvi. That's a real surprise.
That was a healthy scratch tonight, and you're going after him in our live stream here.
Well, let's just be honest. Did anyone else have that on the old bingo card?
No, for sure, buddy.
I didn't.
No, it's a good point.
And I thought 15, 20 for the big guy, and then Yamamoto I thought would be around 20. So that's 35 goals. They don't have them. They're not there. And they're combined, those two won't get it this year.
Let's get back to the Weiss Johnson mentions, and we'll remind you, 45 years in the business. Should you need a new furnace, garage heater, air conditioner, hot water tank, Weiss Johnson is the place to go. They got some great specials on right now. If you get a new furnace or air conditioner or a heat pump installed in February, you get $500 worth of gas cards. Who doesn't need that? And anyone who gets an estimate for a furnace, air conditioner, or heat pump will get entered into a draw for a pair of tickets to an Oilers game. Hey, get a third line center, says Dan Ficca. McLeod is a solid winger. Depth center for the playoffs is never a bad thing. So his point would be bring in somebody above Ryan McLeod that slots in the number 3 center spot that allows you to play Nugent Hopkins on the wing in the top 2 lines and allows you to play McLeod as a 4th line center. I agree you're better if you have McLeod as a 4th line center and you upgrade in the 3 spots. But I think you're better if you upgrade the blue line and lean on McLeod a little bit in the 3 spot. And if he's not working, you can always play Nuge there.
Yeah, that's definitely an option. I think if I was looking up front, I would want to find someone who's a center/winger. Because it depends on what look you want. You want a bit of move it around. Like you look back to the last few years with the Oilers, and not last year's, but, let's say 4 or 5 years ago when they first got these guys, they didn't have a lot of options. It was like either this or that. Now, is Nuge a center or a winger? What's he better at? Is McLeod a center or a winger? Is Hyman a left winger or a right winger? Is Draisaitl a center or a winger, right? The only guy who's always been the same is Connor McDavid. That's really the only guy when you look at this lineup, right? He's and I get it with good reason, right? But I think if I was looking up front, I'd want to find a hybrid, some that take draws, some that can play kind of all around your lineup depending on what I want to do, and due to injuries. So depth would be nice up front. The back end, I don't want to tap into that tonight. But I know. You're really thrashing that bush, trying to get it, beating it. Beat that bush.
Am I overdoing it? Like do you think it's
no?
Okay, let's not get into it. We can get into it. I don't know. Do people want us to get into it? We'll ask the feed. See what people say. Yeah. Do we want to talk Chychrun?
I feel like we're best friends, Chychrun and I. We've been talking about him so much. Not to talk about the deep, but up front, I think that's what you want. You want someone who can play, win faceoffs, play around the lineup. But I don't know who that guy is, and how do you fit him in your lineup? Those guys don't make $1 million.
All right, that was the breakdown brought to you by DLR Vinyl Products. Struds, I put out a tweet just before we went up live here as well, asking people for some comments. So if you want to hop on there and see if there's one or two that stick out to you, I'll go to the Weiss Johnson Twitter mentions here right away. Ray Lapp, who joins us often. Thanks, Ray Lapp. You're a regular here on the pod stream. Broberg is starting to separate himself from minor pro to major pro. I would definitely agree with that. We've seen a massive transition, a sluggish start due to injuries, came up, had a hard time, got sent back down, but he's been arrows up since arriving back on the scene. Stony Oil, also a regular, says Desi's a mutant. Yeah, Darnell is really establishing himself physically, and it's really something that stands out nicely for this group. He's kind of like Niemelainen, but meaner and angrier. Doesn't throw the big hits, but probably defends better even. Like he's like, you think about between he and Niemelainen, the skill sets, they're similar, but his feels a little more refined, Struddy.
Yeah, I think Niemelainen uses his body more, whereas the big man uses his stick more. And come play time, I'm down with the stick work because you're going to get away with it. I got Stephen Bradley B, SBB. Yep. Darnell has been more important to Oilers' run than you guys have given him credit for. PK has been scored on twice in 9 games. He's +7 and 5 points is making opponents scared to go to the front of the net. And I don't know. I think we've given him quite a bit of love.
I would say.
Show.
Yeah.
I think you got to be. He's really filled the hole, right? He's brought something the Oilers didn't have, but he's playing 12, 13 minutes a night. You're not going to start, erecting a statue for Vinny Darnell based on that, but he is filling a role. And I think he, along with Costin and with Kane coming back, they're bigger and they're heavier and they're meaner. Those guys are mean players. That's just a fact. And I think that he has helped on the penalty kill for sure. But I think the way that he's being used, you have to give a lot of credit to Dave Manson. Dave Manson right now is absolutely killing it. He's like Geppetto, the puppet master. Just the way he's working it, pulling the strings, to make sure everyone stays in it. And then same to Jay. I'll give Jay credit up front. No one played, well, I think one guy was under 10 minutes by like 20 seconds. But, so Darnell, I think we're giving him quite a bit of credit. But you got to be careful. Like it's not like he's important, but he's not.
It's still early days. It's still early days for sure. But I'd say that he is in no danger of coming out of the lineup anytime soon. And they're playing 7 defensemen just so they can have him in there. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't imagine where they would get away from this configuration because of what he's bringing on the penalty kill, what he's bringing to the group physically. I mean, this guy's a lock in the lineup the way he's playing right now. So, and they're not going to scratch any of the other right side guys. So, I think it's 11-7. Order forwards are just going to have to kind of get used to that. More mentions here. Chychrun can play right side to make a super pair with Nurse if need be. Well, that's definitely that was from Stony Oil. That'll elicit some reactions. I don't know if you'd want Nurse and Chychrun necessarily playing in the same pair. I think you separate them. The Nurse-CC pair is a problem. Chychrun is not going to fix that, says Logan35 Brandon. What do you think of the Nurse-CC pair overall, Struds? Because I believe that if the Oilers are going to go anywhere, part of what needs to happen, not just at the trade deadline and bringing in more people, Darnell Nurse needs to find his game a little bit more than he has so far this year. And I believe that late in the season here and in the playoffs, I think he will. I think the best version we'll see of Darnell Nurse this year will be down the stretch and in the playoffs. I think he struggled with the weight of this contract. Full on. I really think he cares. And I really think he struggled, and I really think it's been uncomfortable for him. But that's going to go away when those competitive juices are flowing and they get to playoff time. But what have you thought of that pairing?
Yeah, Campbell's the same way. I think that contract, it got to him a little bit. And it's natural. I've seen it happen. Like Chris Drury in New York, he was so much pressure on himself. The reality between CC and Nurse is neither one is a naturally really gifted puck mover.
Yeah.
Right. And when you're playing with those two big guys, you got to deliver the puck to them in a timely manner. So, how do you get away from that? So, okay, well, let's not play. Dave Mann says we're not going to play Connor with those two guys. Well, the problem is Connor plays against other teams' top lines. So then are you going to pull away those two D-men away from other teams' top lines, which is kind of the matchup they're going for?
Yeah.
That gets dangerous because then who do you play? But I prefer seeing Broberg out there. Broberg and Bouchard with Draisaitl because they are more naturally gifted puck movers. But the lineup doesn't always work out that way. Just the way, tonight you could pretty much play anyone with anyone. I don't think it really mattered. But teams that have, those significant assets at the top, I don't think it's fair to give those young guys those matchups with McDavid on the ice.
Snoop Pace says, anyone else think Nurse's play has been kind of lazy? I'm not going to use the word lazy because I don't think Darnell Nurse is a lazy person, and I don't think that he's a lazy player. I don't think he has that in him, but I understand what Snoop is saying because there is a conservative nature sometimes that he plays with. And when I say I mean more like conserving energy. I do find that he plays in a way where it's very clear he's trying to conserve energy at times. When you play the minutes he has to, I think that becomes a necessity. But I think sometimes he errs on the side of maybe conserving a little bit too much at certain points, and that edge is dulled. Like Darnell Nurse has an edge in his game, but when he's conserving energy, that edge comes out and he's not as effective, Struds, to me.
Mm-hmm. I've said it before and I'll say it again. You slot him in as a number one defenseman. He's not a true number one defenseman, right? And that's so the expectations. Now the contract does make a difference. At $9.5 million, you're near the higher end of the defenseman pay scale. So people are like, oh, he should be this. Well, he's not that. He's not a true number one defenseman. He's a number two. So don't ask him to do number one things. Number one defensemen are Makar, they're Roman Yossi. You kind of go through that.
What are they asking him to do, you think, that is beyond what he's capable of, though? Because keep in mind, Struddy, he's not running the power play like every other number one defenseman does.
Yeah, puck movement. He doesn't move the puck like a true number one defenseman.
So it's about who he's playing with.
Just who he is. That's not his thing. And that's not. So let's just look at who are the number one defensemen. Cale Makar, does Darnell Nurse carry or move the puck past it like Makar?
Of course.
No, he doesn't. Yeah. Roman Yossi, no. Hedman, although he's not having the best years, so far this year, no, he doesn't move it like that. Drew Doughty,
rip all over the league, yeah.
And so that to me is you're just moving the puck and just putting it on people's tape right where they need it. That is what number one defensemen do. Even look back historically, Chris Pronger, Scott Niedermayer, Nicholas Lidstrom, Ray Bourque, that is what a number one does. So you're at a number two, and number two is amazing. I was a number six, maybe on a good day, a number five if three people were sick. but you're trying to be, so the problem is he paid as such and people expect it, but that's not who he is. He does a lot of things really well, really, really well. I love the way he defends, the way he skates, the way he competes, all that stuff. But you can't ask him to be something he's not.
We're getting some great comments here on both YouTube and on Twitter. So thank you so much for your involvement, folks. We'll go to Stony Oil. I like this comment here. Is there any trade deadline addition that would push and motivate Nurse any more than Chychrun? Internal competition. That's one thing we have not yet discussed, Struds. How do you think Darnell Nurse would respond to a left shot guy that plays a similar game being rolled into town as a potential solution, and a guy that could potentially have the ability to eat into some of Darnell Nurse's big minutes and responsibility? In some ways it's welcome, but Nurse is a proud guy too. I like that comment. I think that could be legit. It could really push him.
Okay, I'll talk about, I think that he doesn't have that true number one ability to move the puck. And, I think that's not, it's just, he moves it pretty well, but not at the same level.
Yep.
But I am not going to comment. I will not suggest this guy isn't highly competitive. That is, if you don't think he's trying his hardest now, I don't think you're watching. I'm sorry. I think that Darnell Nurse brings it every night. Does he make mistakes? Yeah, but they all do. Every player on the ice makes mistakes, including 97, including 29. Even Vinny Darnell makes the odd mistake out there. So I'm telling you right now,
this is the best he can do. You're saying this is the best he can do. Like, there's no way being challenged by another guy sitting at the dinner table that is very similar to you. You don't think there's any area of his game that maybe he can buckle down a little, or just, you don't think it would push him at all?
Well, then I'm suggesting he's not trying his hardest right now. I'm not going to suggest that. I can't get behind that comment. Listen, Darnell Nurse, if he made $7 million, there'd be a statue already built up somewhere on White Avenue, maybe Jasper Ave if we had the money in the city council. But I'm telling you right now, people. He's a leader in that dressing room. He's in shape all the time. He brings his best effort. He's a competitor. And when it gets down to brass tacks, you're going to want him on this team. Yeah, he's probably overpaid. But you know what? What did he do wrong? He did nothing wrong. He
totally
went through
agree.
it. He brought it all the time. So if you want to be mad, direct your anger at a manager or previous managers, but don't direct it at Darnell.
And I don't think we're beating up on him, Struds. Like I don't. Well, people are vocal people out there on Twitter
100%.
are. But that's going to happen on Twitter, right? And when you're Darnell, that's just going to happen. But I think the calm, level-headed Oiler fan realizes Darnell Nurse got the contract for a few different reasons. Is it ideal? No. Is he playing his best right now? No. But I think the average Oiler fan probably understands the basic logic between having to lock him up because of who he was in that room, who he is to this group, what it means for the potential to lock up other players that they want to keep. Yes, there are some that have been loud about his underperformance this year, and I'm not saying that that's unfair. But there's some nuance here in this discussion, and I love it. I think it's interesting. And like I said before, I think Darnell Nurse is going to be one of their stronger players down the stretch and into the playoffs because I think he'll be able to shake off the contract stuff and just focus on where this group desperately wants to go. And that's where Darnell Nurse will have a chance to shine. Okay, quick discussion here on Warren Fogle before we go. And that is going to be takeaways, brought to you by Sherwood Buick GMC. They're the #1 dealership in all of Canada 5 years running, and it's easy to see why. I just went through the process and bought a brand new Sierra 1500 from them. I've got the elevation trim. It's an awesome truck. Absolutely love it. I went in to get an oil change today, and I pulled in, and the guy gave me the how many kilometers on it, and I told him, he's like, oh, nice and new. I said, yup. Yeah. It's an awesome truck. Love it. So Sherwood Buick GMC makes the process nice and easy. It's the big dealership just off Baseline Road on the way into Sherwood Park. So go see Phil and the crew over at Sherwood Buick GMC. Okay, let's talk about Warren Fogle. I mentioned it on the radio. I can't remember if it was yesterday or this morning, that there was some jump in Warren Fogle's step in practice. Just saw something. He was moving fast. He was competing hard. He was grinding in there, and he was really engaged, right? Why wouldn't you be pissed off if you're Warren Fogle? One night you're playing up in the lineup, the next minute you're healthy scratched. The coach is saying publicly, well, it's nothing he's doing. That's not what you want to hear. You don't want to hear that it's not your fault. You're just pissed off if you're scratched. So he gets back in, and I thought played a pretty strong game tonight. Struds, what did you see from Fogle, and why don't we see that more often, frankly?
Well, I think I'll answer the second part. The injuries, it derails a guy, right? He what is the longest stretch where he's been on for the Edmonton Oilers?
Yeah.
What can I say? 10 games, 5 games, 15 games, 20? I think that'd be an interesting conversation. Prior to getting, whether he wasn't playing well or he got injured or whatever the case is. So I'd be pissed off too. And I think that there's an opportunity here for him he's fighting with Puljujärvi, probably Janmark on some level, for that ice time. Not just ice time, a spot on the bench. That's what he's fighting for. So a lot of jump today. He was driving the puck and skating. And when he skates, he's big and strong and fast. Man, he can really make a difference. And quite frankly, his skill set like that, every time I see him shoot a puck like that one-timer, the pass from Nuge, I'm always surprised. I'm like, damn, I didn't know he had that shot in him.
Totally agree.
He doesn't, because he had another one like, I forget who, maybe it was Leon that passed to him. And it was a similar type play, a nice one-timer. I was like, where did that come from? I didn't even know you had that shot. So it's great to see, and I wish you could see it more often, but it's confidence and opportunity, and they have to be ready at the same time.
Yeah. So the question for me with Fogle, he's one of those frustrating players because he's one of their better skating forwards. He's one of their bigger forwards. He's not small. He can hit decent when he wants to. We just talked about the shot that he has. Now his hands are a bit of a struggle, right? He can hack the thing square a little bit, but you can't have everything. If he had hands, he'd be a $7 million player, right? That's kind of the one thing. But it's also the consistency and that motivation and being able to stay healthy. So I guess the question I have is, when you look at that base of skills and you think playoff hockey, they should just go together. He should just be playoff built, right? He's that kind of player. And, I look at his playoff stats last year, 13 games played. He just had 1 assist. He played .936, but he had 39 hits, right? He understood that physically you needed to elevate in the postseason, and they need guys that can do that. So he's got a salary that I think the Oilers will try and move because I think they want to get better in some other areas. So I do think they're going to be trying to move him, and he's got another year left on the deal as well. But Struds, do you think Warren Fogle has more that could really be valued at playoff time? And, would there be any regret for you if they moved on from that player and didn't have him for the postseason?
Well, if you're moving on from Fogle, you better be damn sure about Kostin and Janmark.
Great point.
And Holloway. You have to get that right because you made the choice. Well, I don't know if you made the choice, but at the beginning of the season, neither of them were on the team, and Holloway had a small part. And now you're saying that all three have passed this guy, and maybe they have, and Kostin his goal scoring is it won't stay up at the level it was, but I'm guessing his next contract for looking ahead will probably be less than probably it has to be less.
Oh yeah.
Than what his is at. Janmark, his numbers, he's steady in there, but is he as fast? No. Is physical? No. Is big? No. And then Dylan Holloway, I think I've got so much time for him, but I'm not sure he'll be playoff ready this year for what we need. But you know what? I hate to give up on that guy. I really do. But it's almost 2 years now, and we're saying the same thing, And so, what point does it become? Maybe just this is who he is, right? He's inconsistent, and that's why maybe Carolina made their move.
Might just be a fourth line left winger, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's okay,
right? Yeah.
You can lean on that guy for 7 to 9 minutes to just go out and skate hard and finish his checks and, pitch in here and there when he can. Probably, he's got some third line skill at times. Yeah. The problem is he's not paid like a fourth line left winger. That's the problem here, Struddy.
Yeah. And that's it. Now, if someone else want him for that number, I don't know. I'm not sure. It seems like every time we talk about a player we're trying to trade or the people want to trade, you're sweeten up the deal, sweeten up you can't just sweeten up every deal and get them out of town. It's just you're going to sweeten up a deal for him and Puljujärvi out the door.
Well, yeah.
Two big wingers that can score and skate. And I think if we were guessing last year to start the year, you would have said you're looking to get rhythm the next year for the playoff run. Just think about that. You the expectations for those, especially when we see Puljujärvi start the season. Like now you're training away these guys, and to sweeten the pot. That is, I think 18 months ago that would have been almost unthinkable.
We'll go to the Weiss Johnson soundbox one more time. Here's Warren Fogle on how he felt during the scratch and the support that he felt from his group.
Yeah, I think you just try to stay positive. You try to take baby steps on throughout your game, trying to achieve many goals. And, for me, I think, you're just trying to take it day by day and be positive. And, the group of guys here are just great. When those things happen, they're there to, pick you up and, you just try to do your best.
Okay, Struds, I got a comment here from Curb84. I got to let you clarify this. Strudwick said in this show that he can't respect anyone he disagrees with. Did you say that? I didn't hear you say that. You never said that.
I believe I thought it. I've thought it many times.
So Curb84 is reading your thoughts.
That doesn't even sound like I can't respect anyone I disagree with. I don't think
that doesn't make sense.
That seems pretty bold. I don't usually take that firm a stance. But like going back to Fogle, when I look at Fogle, getting scratched sucks. It absolutely sucks. But you know what? You've got to prove the coach and he needs to get you in the lineup. So tonight, he made it impossible for him to take him out next game. He can't. Jay cannot. He cannot justify pulling him out of the lineup. Yeah. So guess what? Good news. You get a second game. Awesome. But you got to bring it again. And then you got to do it again. And you got to do it again. And still, with the way they have the depth, it might not be enough. It might come out. There's a chance if he just has an average game on Thursday, he might not play on the weekend. It might be Puljujärvi back in there. And that's not fair, but that's the NHL. So you got to be preparing and get ready to go out the door, flying again, and play your best game for eventually okay, we know we got to play you.
2 minutes and 36 seconds, shorthanded. Puljujärvi doesn't do that, right? Yeah. Yamamoto can. And that's the thing to keep an eye on this weekend, Struds. Like, we'll look ahead a bit to this weekend here. Yamamoto, the expectation is, he's going to be ready to go when he comes off on the 12th. Yeah. And so something's going to have to give here lineup-wise. Janmark, look at him. Comes back into the lineup tonight. Played 15:38 after not practicing with the team the last couple of days. I'm going to point to a number. 3:43 he played shorthanded tonight. They use this guy, and he's on a line that they feel is working with Nugent Hopkins and Costin. So what's going to happen here to get Kailer Yamamoto back in the lineup? They don't want to send down Darnell. They don't want to send down Broberg. They don't want to, something's going to have to give. And so we shall see. But it's going to be interesting as we hurtle towards the weekend here. Like, a Puljujärvi trade makes a lot of things, eases up in a lot of ways. And I know you're maybe expecting they'll find a way around it, but the days are ticking off here, bud.
Yeah, they are. I mean, I'm on record. I think that they'll find a way to sidestep this for now, but the decision has to be made by the trade deadline, right? And that's the way it has to be. And whether you have to sweeten it, there's value. I have no idea. And everyone's got their own opinion. I just know right now he's not being used for this lineup, and other people have bullied by him. So that's the way it is. And then honestly, if you're going to bring someone else in, let's say they were able to keep it and all the cap, he still might not be playing a regular shift. And same with Fogle. And honestly, Janmark could be challenged. Not that he's not playing well, but there's depth and there's options, and coaches love it.
Oh yeah,
man, they love the competition. They love it. They just. Hey, if you're not playing well, don't worry about it. We'll put Schauger in Strudwick. Don't worry about it. Like they love that. And
never happened.
They don't say it, but you know it. You just know it. And it's a positive. If you're an Oilers fan, you want this. You have guys that are pushing people down because of the way they're playing. That's the way it's the way it should be. I
love the way you bring it, Struds. You know how you approach this podcast?
Right.
You approach this podcast like you're very aware that Joaquin Gage is just a phone call away. That's the way you approach this podcast, pal.
Yeah. He's right there. Him and his that leather jacket. I went curling with him, and he wore a leather jacket while he curled.
Did he really?
Oh, man. You lost so much of my respect.
Gager.
The last shreds of it.
Wow, that's awesome. Hey, quick look around the standings tonight too, and kind of what went down. It wasn't a terrible night for them. The Avs lost in OT. The Kraken got shut out. Vegas picks up a win, but a little bit of help in the standings. And so, where are the standings? I had them, and now they're gone. So Oilers sitting at 62 points, couple of games in hand here on the Los Angeles Kings. So they continue to pile up the points, man. Critical time of year. They picked a good time to take care of their business. 8-0-1 in their last 9 games. Philadelphia Flyers set to go on Thursday. Thanks for this, Struds. Much appreciated, man.
Talk to you then, guys.
Okay, have a great one. Okay, folks, that was lots of fun, actually. We had some great interactions on Twitter there and on YouTube, so we really appreciate you jumping on to our live streams here, brought to you by Mr. Dirk. Flyers Thursday? What day are we today? Wednesday? No, Flyers Thursday, yeah. So we'll drop another podcast after that. Also, keep an eye on the LeBrun Rishaug Got Your Back pod tomorrow. Oiler fans might be interested in a guest that we've got lined up for tomorrow's podcast. So that's Got Your Back, LeBrun and Rishaug. Big thanks to our sponsors, Mr. Dirk, DLR Vinyl Products, Sherwood Buick GMC, and of course, Weiss Johnson as well. Have a fantastic rest of your evening. Look forward to chatting again real soon, folks. Cheers.